Natasha, thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this.
It's so exciting. I have to say this is one of the most exciting podcasts, like interviews I have circled on my calendar because I never get to talk to another host. So I am so ecstatic that we get a chat.
Yeah, no, same. Like it's very few people that I get to speak to that also have a podcast as well. And so, yeah, I'm excited.
This is gonna be fantastic. So we like starting with a little exercise we like to call Cape U. It's one thing about your younger self, one thing you like about your culture, or something unique about you. I'll kick us off. One thing unique about me is that I am notorious for not being very good at small talk. I'm just not a very good small talk guy, but I love deep conversations. So I love to have conversations and I love chatting with folks, but I've never been very good about talking about, oh, how's the weather doing, or how's this football team doing. Like, it's just not, I'm not great at that side of conversation. Something unique, a little quirky about me, but that's something about me. Now I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah. So, do you want me to go through like younger self?
You can do each one of those, or you can pick one that kind of stands up if you have a story. So once again, it's one thing about your younger self, or you can do one thing you like about your culture, or something unique about you. Any one of those, all three of those, whatever you want to share.
Okay, I probably could roll all three into one thing anyway. I so something that's about my younger self and fairly unique, I guess, is that I have an identical twin. So yeah, that's that.
That's great.
Yeah, so and we are extremely close. We are very, very close. And I think it's just great having someone who has been stuck with you from birth.
Yeah.
It's literally like having a built-in best friend. And in having that best friend with me, it means that she not only gets to share in the highs in my life, but she also gets to share in some of the lows. And it's someone that I can wholeheartedly be my complete and utter self, authentic self with, which is amazing. And it's definitely a gift. I'm so blessed. And we are still very, very much close. And I'm going to show my age, but like I'm in like 30s now. So it's a long time.
That's fantastic, though. I think I had friends that lived across from me when I was growing up that were twins, and they were like inseparable. Like, I never remember seeing one without the other, and they were older than me. They were like my big brothers, basically, like running around the neighborhoods being hooligans. But I just remember, like, I never saw them separated, and I just remember being so jealous of, like, man, I have a sister, but I was like, I don't have a twin. Like, that would be so awesome. Same clothes, same everything. I was like, man, you guys are awesome. I'm sure that got old at some point.
Yeah, no, it did. I mean, at the beginning when we were younger, like my mum would dress us up exactly the same,
Mm-hmm.
and like we'd have the same hairstyles. No one could tell us apart. But as we grew older, we kind of came into our own, and we did still have our own kind of interests and our own style. And that kind of moves on to what one of the things that I love about our culture is that it's our hair and that we can express ourselves through our hair so uniquely,
Mm-hmm.
and so creatively. And so that was one differentiating factor between me and my sister was our hair.
Oh,
So she, as we got older, she decided to shave her head. And so now
wow.
she only has she's got most of it is shaven. She's only got like a little bit at the top, a little bit like I don't know if you know the singer Emily Sandé.
I don't. I'm gonna look her
Yeah,
up though.
she's like it's like basically shaven. She's got like low back and sides, and then it's just a bit of hair on the top, which she like curls and stuff like that. It's just it suits her
Oh,
so well.
yeah.
Um, she's had that hairstyle for ages now, and it's just amazing. And then I've just got my natural hair, but then I've relaxed it. But with that, I do a number of different hairstyles. Like I'll do protective styles and I'll have it like in a bob. I'll cut it short. Like I had it like a Halle Berry short for my wedding. And then
Oh,
all of a sudden I decided to grow it out. And I'm like, no, I want a bob. And then I'm like, no, I want it long. It's just one of those things I
yeah.
love about our culture. And actually a couple of like the protective styles, that brings into like what's unique about me is that
Mhm.
I'm someone who with I can just see something and I could be like, you know what, I'm going to try that. I'm going to learn to do that.
Yeah.
So if I see like a hairstyle, like for example, like knotless braids, I can do that. I'm going to teach myself how to do that. I'll go on YouTube, do
That's
knotless
awesome.
braids, and now I can do them myself,
Yeah.
and My friends want me to do them for them, and I'm like, no. I'm like, oh my goodness. But yeah, that's one unique thing about me. It's just I think my creativity. I take things to a little bit to the next level.
No, I
So
absolutely love that. I think that's so brilliant. I actually grew my hair out to donate it. That's why I'm hair. So I've donated once. I'm growing it back out now to donate it
oh,
again.
that's fantastic.
Um, but yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think the best part about having a twin would be like whatever hairstyle they do or you do, she gets to kind of see what it would kind of look like. That's got to be awesome.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And then she shaved her hair, and I was like, "What are you doing? I need you. You're meant to be my mirror."
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
too. Did you guys ever do the whole thing where like she took a test for you or you took a test for her?
we didn't do tests because I would not allow Natalie to take a test for me because then I would not pass. Uh,
Oh,
but we did used to swap classes. So, like
no.
in secondary school, there was a couple of times where she would go into a class for me if I was just like, "Oh, do you know what? I really don't want to take history today. Like, can you just take it for me?" So yeah, and so she would sit in the class. I mean, we got found out. I think one time we got found out and we got a detention because our teachers realised that we'd swapped. I mean, all the girls in the class, because we went to an all girls school, so like
Yeah.
all the girls were like, "Yeah, oh my god, it's so sick." But then obviously our teachers were like, "No, this is unacceptable." So yeah, got that.
Yeah. It's always funny what's funny, like when you were like a kid and a student, then like now you get older and you're like, yeah, I don't know why we switched classes or like why we did
You know, when you're older, you're just like, "Wow, that was really silly and so
that.
unnecessary." But I guess it's just the fun part about being a kid, right? You can
Yeah.
just kind of break those rules, and it's just exploring yourself, finding
You always feel
yourself.
like such a rebel too when you're like breaking these rules. And when you get older, you're like, I was just being silly. Like there were no stakes, but it's just like funny looking back on it. You were like, yeah, I was a little rebel. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, definitely. But there were times where I think, given what I look like and where I come from as a black woman, as a black girl, um, in a private school, which was predominantly not as diverse as, well, is predominantly kind of a lot of white students. There were only a very few of us. I think there were situations where actually breaking those rules, the repercussions were a lot more heavy handed to us.
Mhm.
Which when you're at that age, you don't really think about, you don't really see it like that. And yeah, and I guess that's probably was one of the starting points for me in realizing the difference between what I look like and what others look like, and how we are treated differently. I think that's probably where I first realized that.
I think it's interesting you say that. I think I also went to like a predominantly white school, public school, but it was a predominantly white school. And I think moments like those are when I started to realize, like, I think one of the moments I vividly remember is like when America, right, the civil rights movement comes up eventually every school year. And teachers would just look to me as the as the one black kid in the class. We get to that section of it, and all teachers just look at me to like have the response, right? They ask a question, what do you guys think of the civil rights? And it wasn't just like everyone would look to you. And I think that it was subtle things like that that I think made me start realize like, okay, like this is different. I think I had other experiences, obviously, but I think as a kid, I think I always grew up, and most kids do, thinking like school is a safe space. Teachers are people meant to protect you, meant to educate you. And this isn't to say like, it was a horrible experience by any means. I had great teachers. But I do think, whether intentional or unintentional, I did have a different experience, right? On what that was. Doesn't mean it's a bad or a good experience. But I do think it's something that is interesting to look at in the lens of like growing up. Like, what is that experience like? So I think that, thank you for sharing. I think that's an incredible, interesting point, and leads me to my first question, which is, you created this podcast. I love it. I've listened to a couple of episodes. It is absolutely fantastic. Listeners, please go check out this podcast, the All Inclusive Podcast. Um, what made you start this podcast, and why is it so important to you?
So I started it through the encouragement of my husband. Um, he's also a podcaster as well, and he does predominantly in HR. And he in listening to the people and the HR leaders that he speaks with, I could hear that there was work being done in order to ensure that the workplaces that people were entering into were inclusive, and that people felt like that they could bring kind of their full selves to work, and that there was people they could look around the office and they would see themselves, right? They could see others that are like them too. Um, but it was something that I didn't really feel that I could have much involvement in.
Mhm.
Um, and then because I work in financial services, and I have worked in financial services for like over a decade now. And so I'd experienced those microaggressions, those stories that we hear time and time again. I feel like from people from underrepresented groups, which isn't the greatest, of feeling like you've been passed over, or that you are being kind of judged because of who you are. Those sorts of things like that. Unfortunately, those are some of the things that I experienced too. But as I said, listening to the HR leaders, I was like, from different organizations, I was like, oh, okay, fantastic. Like, there's work being done here. Great. And then I think it was when COVID hit, and I was about what, my daughter was 3 by then. And I had already had those feelings of like not knowing who I was, like trying to find yourself again. I think after you have kids as a woman, um, you do lose a little bit of who you were before, like, because that person is no longer anymore, right? Like,
Mhm.
who you were as not mum is completely different to who you are now becoming as having this little person that you're responsible for. And yeah, I kind of was losing myself a little bit in that. And in COVID, that's where I sat down and just reevaluated and was like, actually, you know what, like, what do I care most about? What do I want to leave on this world? And it is ensuring that my daughter doesn't experience any of the things that I experience when she grows up and when she goes into the workplace. And so creating a platform to amplify leaders that are doing the work is my contribution to making sure that we do change, we move the dial.
Yeah.